by introducing youth and community-driven media to the general public and exposing it to a wider range of themes. Explain PH, which has its roots in student journalism, seeks to dissolve the barriers of traditional academic journalism. Explain PH exposes young journalists to the minefield of reality and serves as a platform to showcase their journalistic skills beyond the comfort of traditional campus journalism. Seeking to educate and empower the masses, the organization creates informative and entertaining content in the boundary of responsible and decisive reporting.
Explain PH was founded on the idea that campus journalists can expand their orientation and do more. From once a small platform of few high school and college students, we are now a community of truth defenders, media information and literacy champions, fact-checkers, and different advocates from diverse backgrounds. Critical to our mission of building communities where facts can thrive, we are expanding our network as we drive facts forward, amidst the attacks, suppression, and censorship. In reaching this goal, we need you to start the conversation. Explain PH is launching Speak Up, a community for campus journalists and advocates to discuss about the issues that matter. Our goal is to connect
Recording in
school papers,
progress.
groups, clubs, and other organizations under one goal. To help spread facts from our campus to communities and make our society a better place.
Ako si Jassel G.H. Raison, Chief Cartoonist kan Explain PH, taga Iriga City, Camarines Sur, Bicol Region.
Ako si David Monforte, photojournalist kag editorial cartoonist sa Explain PH, Hali, sa probinsya San Masbate.
Ako si Kimberly Capuyan, news writer o photojournalist sa Explain PH, gikan sa Cebu.
Ako ay Sofia Javier, taga San Julian, Eastern Samar.
Siak ni Mia Zamora, nagdadaed dito'y Santa Ignacia, Tarlac.
Ako si RB Bautista, usa ka copy editor ug Digicast.
For news writing naman yan. So introducing our speaker, Sir Jerome Paul D. Halig is a second-year AB political science student at Ateneo de Naga University and the outgoing research and development director of the Pillars publication, the university's official student publication. In 2023, he won 4th place in the NSPC in Cagayan de Oro City. In the same year, he served as the editor-in-chief of the Isabog, the official school publication of Camarines Sur National High School. Jerome currently serves as a volunteer writer and copy editor for Explain PH. So guys, introducing our speaker for today, Sir Jerome Paul D. Halili. Let's give him a warm round of digital applause.
Hello po. Am I audible po? Naririnig po ba? Hello. Am I audible po?
Yes, you're audible po.
Sorry, thank you po. Hi, maray na hapon sa inyong kapos. I am Jerome Paul Lihali. I've been writing news stories. I've been a news writer for 9 or 10 years since nag-start ako in grade 5. Actually, sa collaborative and desktop publishing ako, pero news section ako assigned then. And until now, I'm still a student journalist, and hanggang ngayon, news writing pa din yung field. And since siya na rin talaga yung forte ko ever since. So, disclaimer lang din, I would like to parang I would like to say na I do not take full credit for all the tips that I would share and all the things that I will be able to impart to all of you, since it's a product of mga like tips and all the advice ng mga naging mentors ko and coach since I started. Ayan. So for today, I would talk about news writing. So let's start. First, before we get into the details, let us define first what is a news story. So, according to Melvin Melcher, news is a record of the most interesting, important, and accurate information obtained about the things man thinks and says, sees and describes, plans, and does. So, to put it simply, a news story is a report, specifically a factual report of things that are significant to people or that are of interest to them. Siyempre, hindi naman parang newsworthy ang isang balita kung hindi naman siya importante o hindi siya hindi siya something that would make people interesting. Siguro pwede siyang sulatan, pero hindi siya worthy na mabasa ng karamihan, at dahil nga dun sa parang it lose some of the values na that like creates what an effective news story is. Another description or another way of describing what a news story is ito. This is my favorite, actually. This is my favorite na way of explaining what a news is, because actually of the last phrase. Pero according to Matthew Lyle Spencer, a news story is any event, idea, or opinion that is timely, that interests and affects a large number of persons in the community, and that is capable of being understood by them. Before I get into some of this stuff here, I would like to clarify first that the opinion that is stated, yung opinion that is stated in this description is that it is not the author's or the writer's opinion as a news writer. It's an opinion by, let's say, a prominent person or a prominent people na yung opinion niya may shape something sa community or may grave or significant na consequence yung opinion niya. Parang ganon. So this is my favorite description of what a news story is because of the last phrase. So a news story should be capable of being understood by the people. So isa sa mga laging ine-emphasize sa pagsulat ng balita ay dapat yung KISS, yung keep it short and simple, because hindi lamang tayong mga journalists, mga student journalists ang nagbabasa ng sinusulat natin. Hindi lang din mga professionals ang nagbabasa ng newspapers. Kailangan natin i-consider ang mga layperson, let's say mga tambay, parang ganun. So the more na mas madaling maintindihan ang istorya, mas actually mas mabuti siya. Ayan. So next is this general guidelines na nabanggit ni Melcher. So number one is a story or an event, an idea or an opinion is worthy of being written as a news story kapag the information is about a break from a normal flow of events, an interruption in the expected, and a deviation from the norm. So siguro, while I was discussing with one of my friends na student journalist din, nalaman namin ito, parang pinoint out niya na baka ito yung reason why we have this so-called breaking news because it introduces something that is new or parang it breaks the normal flow of events nga. So, one of the, let's say, concrete examples of this, I would say, yung pinaka-recent na Typhoon Christine. So, this is very, like, siguro very mundane, pero it is a great example of it because typhoons, syempre kapag dumadaan sila sa areas where there are people na nakatira, syempre nauudlot ang mga supposed na plans natin or dapat gawin. For example, here in Naga City, here sa Bicol region, almost 3 weeks or 1 month na kailangan itigil ang face-to-face classes. So, as parang, yeah, you get the idea na suppose there were plans na there would be, let's say, the examinations or magkakaroon ng semestral breaks kung nangyari na hindi dumaan yung bagyo. Pero dahil nangyari yung bagyo, what happened is it introduced a break from the normal flow of events. Tapos, ang nangyari is that new things will have to be implemented para to cope from that tragedy. And number two, like another thing that makes a story newsworthy is that the information involved in there is something that people can use to help them make sound decisions about their lives. So parang asking yourself, what is it for me? Ano ang nasa balita o ano ang nasa istorya na makakatulong para sa akin o para sa normal kong pamumuhay? Mayroon bang bagong, like a new way of looking at something, a new way of doing something that is more efficient? Pag ginamit ko, parang ganun. Ayan. So, next is, dadako naman tayo sa elements of news. Parang ito yung characteristics ng isang news stories. Parang parang sila yung bumubuo ng isang news story. So, number one is timeliness, or in other words, nandito yung immediacy. So, isa sa mga challenges na news writers face is kailangan na, although kahit dapat hindi ma-compromise yung quality ng information, pero as much as possible, we have to write a news story in a very short amount of time. Number one, kasi ayaw natin na nababahaw ang isang balita. Kasi the more na mahaba yung time na hindi pa, that the story has not been published yet, maraming factors. Pwedeng mayroong iba nang nakapag-publish ng noong istorya, nauna na sa inyo, nauna na sa'yo, o kaya naman yung balita is that the longer na hindi pa siya nailalabas at marami ng kumbagang news writers o marami ng mga publishing companies yung nakapagbalita ng nasabing balita, mas less na yung taong magbabasa nun or mas less na yung interested na magbasa nun since parang nabombard na yung, let's say, in our current setting now, yung social media, nung types of that news. So, yan, parang paunahan siya. Pero, of course, without compromising the quality of the news story. And also, under timeliness is events that are recent. So, events that are recent are, syempre, kaya yan talaga yung parang people are more likely would want to read because it's something that is in right now. And yung mga balita o hindi na nga sila classified as like a new na balita. They were news then, pero hindi naman na sila talagang pagtutuunan pa ng pansin dahil pwedeng maaaring may development na mula doon, so pwedeng mayroong mayroong pangyayari after that news na mas recent kaysa doon sa information na nandun sa dating balita. Ayan. And another is news has to be objective. So it presents varying viewpoints fairly and it is impartial. So as news writers, not only actually as news writers, but as specifically as journalists, we are not biased, pero we are biased to the truth. We are biased to what is factual. We are biased to what is verifiable. So doon tayo nakabase. Ano talaga ang katotohanan? Ano ang facts? Kaya news stories have to be objective. Next is a news story has to be accurate, or the information in news stories kailangan accurate sila. So this pertains to correctness ng information like names, yung spelling ng names, yung eksaktong sinabi, yung statements. Well, dun sa eksaktong sinabi, let's say direct quotations. Pero kung indirect quotations naman, we have to make sure na the meaning of the words hindi siya ma-skew or hindi mabago yung meaning, kasi maaaring umalma yung, let's say, source ng statements. And also figures. Malaki ang let's say, parang consequence kapag namali ka in terms of like sa figures, because numbers, let's say in your news story, you're like parang let's say 10,000 yung figure, 10,000 yung figure. Pero sa contest, parang nalingat ka or nakalimutan mo ilagay yung another zero, misrepresentation siya ng data. So parang it's a big red flag. So kailangan talagang accurate. So double check every time the facts and yung information. Next is attribution. And I would like to really put emphasis on this sa attribution because during my time, isa siya sa mga dating nakakaligtaan ko. Pero ngayon, nagkakaroon naman na akong like ways how to like do it. And also, doon din sa mga, like sometimes I critique words. Minsan ito yung nawawala, yung attribution. So attribution is basically acknowledgement or acknowledging the sources of your information, or kung saan galing ang isang statement, saan galing ang isang information. For example, memorandum, isang prominent people ay nagsabi ng ganito. We have to always cite or kailangan natin banggitin kung sino ang nagsabi nito. Kailangan natin banggitin kung saan galing ang information natin, because it builds or it adds credibility to your work, and also it's verifiable. Kumbaga, hindi lang siya yung parang sinabi mo, parang maaaring sabihin na like, okay, saan yan galing? Is that just coming from you as a writer? Or it is sinabi talaga siya ng isang tao na maaaring kapag tinanong yung tao na yun, they would say na, yeah, they really did say that. So it adds credibility to our work. Next is another news element is prominent. So ayan, nabanggit ko na siya kanina. Most of the time, a news story is newsworthy because it involves well-known people or high-profile events. So marami pwedeng example nito ngayon. For example, I'd say si current VP Sara Duterte. I know, alam nyo yung nangyayaring issues ngayon for sure because it's very viral on social media, yung things about it. So yan, it is newsworthy because number one, it involves VP Sara Duterte, which is a prominent person. Tapos marami pang news values na attached doon, and we can actually, I can touch on it sa other news elements, pero we can move on to proximity first. So next is proximity. So an information, or what makes an information or a part of the news na newsworthy siya, what makes it newsworthy is it's close to people. it does not only pertain to the geographical factors na sinasabi na garo, like parang a news news story is more parang mas interesting siya or mas important siya for this group of people because let's say yung sa Typhoon Christine, that it would only be read by those people that are in Bicol or near those areas because sila yung nasalanta. Pero it's also close to people emotionally. It can be close to people emotionally. In what way? Pwedeng mayroong isang, let's say, OFW na mayroon siyang kamag-anak na naandun sa lugar kung saan yung Typhoon Christine ay dumaan. That person would probably read and like would be interested to read that news story because it's close to that person. Wala siya dun sa physical, yung mismong geographical area, but there are people that are close to that person dun sa area na yun. So it's close to that person emotionally. So that's proximity. Next naman is human interest. So these are the relatable aspects that connect readers to subjects. So although very important yung facts, yung numbers, figures, and stuff, it's also very, very important to consider human interest. Hindi lang siya sa feature. Ang alam ko kasi more often than not, sa feature siya masyadong na-emphasize yung human interest. But also in news, we have to consider human interest din. But in a way that I believe sinabi siya ni cartoonist Zach na we have to like in terms of human interest, na we have to show like parang i-illustrate yung emotions na naandun. However, hindi siya dapat in a way na ma-romanticize, especially for the marginalized groups. So, ayan, that's for human interest. And next naman is oddity. So, oddity is like a news element that pertains to parang novelty, something that is unusual, shocking, or bizarre. So, I'd say one of pinakamadali siyang maintindihan din, if naaalala niyo yung sa budget hearing with yung kay VP Sara in terms of sa budget niya, the hearing, I believe, was only held for only 10 minutes. So that angle, taking that angle as like the hearing or the meeting was only held for 10 minutes, it's actually good to take that angle because it's something that is bizarre. It's a break from a normal flow of events. It's a deviation from a norm na oftentimes these hearings are held for a longer time to deliberate talaga kung they have nagiging mabusisi sila sa papupuntahan ng budget. However, in that specific scenario, in that meeting, it would be very people would very much find that interesting that the hearing was only held for 10 minutes. So, ayan, then you put your info na it was like the reasons behind that is this and that and ganon. Pero that itself, that is something that is odd. So that is very much important to consider in writing a news story na mayroong newsworthy values or like elements. So, dumako naman tayo sa structure ng isang balita. So, if let's say, like sa formal writing ba, or yung in writing essays, I believe yung parang pina-follow more often than not, the structure is yung parang diamond, wherein the body is the meat of the whole essay or work. However, in news writing, I'd say parang the meat o yung pinaka laman talaga, yung pinaka-importante at pinakalaman ng isang istorya ay nasa lead o yung first sentence or first paragraph ng news story. So the lead, it contains the most important feature and the most important facts of the story, and it usually answers the 5 W's and 1 H. So ano yung 5 W's and 1 H? So it's the who, the what, the when, where, why, and also how. So next is the lead support naman. So the lead support is ang other term or other name for it also is the secondary lead. So it is the secondary lead, parang sumusunod siya doon sa lead because it complements the lead. It provides additional details doon sa lead to add more context doon. And next is the body. So it is important information that are supplementary to the story. Pero in terms of like the hierarchy nung pagkakasunod-sunod ng importance ng facts, the body is the like least important kaysa doon sa mga naunang facts na ilalagay mo sa lead or sa lead support. And next is the background, which are events or information that offers context to the story. So pwede more minsan nagagamit yung background kapag yung isang istorya, it involves like it's parang development siya from a past na isang pangyayari din. So parang like this is the current angle, this is the current news ngayon. Tapos yung pwedeng background information is that let's say para mas mas madaling ma-visualize and concrete yung example. Pwedeng mayroong ipinasa or like on a third reading na ipasa ng House of Representatives ang isang batas. So pwedeng ang maging background noon is that sino yung principal authors. That's that provides context within the story, like adds information. And also, when it was first filed, pwede siyang ma-add as a background information. And also, ayan, parang ganon. So that's, pero also, the background does not, hindi naman kailangan na nandun na siya sa parang tail ng inverted pyramid or sa last part. It can proceed, pwede siya doon sa after stating a specific fact na kailangan na bigyan ng context, pwedeng sumunod yung background after that information. Ayan. So, in my presentation, I would very much emphasize sa pagsulat ng lead because nasabi ko na nga in writing a story, ang lagi siyang lagi siya actually I believe nasasabi as a contestant before na kapag nasa contest, pag nagsulat ka ng isang balita, kapag nasulat mo na daw yung lead mo, parang it's already the 50% of your story. Pero like in terms of like sa number of paragraphs, hindi naman, di ba? Pero in terms of like the gravity kasi, we put emphasis, di ba, na like inverted pyramid, the most important and the most interesting facts are nandun sa pinaka-unahan. Ito yung pinaka-unang binabanggit o inilalahad natin. So, the lead is the first paragraph of your news story. It contains the angle ng balita. So, in writing hindi naman lang siya confined sa news. Also, in other journalistic writing, I believe parang preferable that our paragraphs are written in one sentence lang. So one sentence, one paragraph. So that's the first paragraph of your news story. And more often than not, it is a summary. So a summary lead is parang a gist na or summary ng buong pangyayari. So we also have novelty leads, yung shotgun leads and other types. Pero I won't be able to cover them now. It's actually not something that I am very inclined to do. Although it's actually very good to use novelty leads, especially kapag akma siya sa konteksto. And I believe nagagamit talaga siya ng mga very witty na writers where they are able to do wordplays or they are able to reference pop culture references or like movies and stuff na pwedeng ma-incorporate sa news story. So, ayan. Pero in terms of summary lead, it is the gist or yung summary or yung parang pinaka concise way of like putting the most important facts sa first paragraph ng istorya mo. And more often than not, it's composed of 5 Ws and 1 H. However, hindi naman kailangan na i-cram natin, na ilagay lahat ng who, what, when, where, why, and how sa lead natin. I believe dati, up until now, I believe din na yung parang preferred na number of words sa pagsulat ng lead is 30 to 35 words. So, ayan, very short lang talaga ang lead because dapat madali lang, mabilis lang siyang basahin. Because in writing a news story, specifically the lead, I believe, sinasabi din, nabasa ko siya before, that a news story is a literature on the go or literature in a hurry. These are, hindi naman siya specifically catered for people na nagmamadali, pero most of us are nagmamadali, kumbaga, or marami pa tayong ibang bagay na kailangan gawin in our lives. So, that's why writing leads, kailangan short lang siya, and dapat na-incorporate niya na lahat ng kailangan talagang malaman ng isang reader. Yung 5 W's and 1 each, pwede siyang ma-distribute all through the sa succeeding paragraphs. Sa lead support mo, you can add the other parts, other W's or the H itself, pwede mo siyang i-add sa lead support mo, or the other part, answering these questions. Ayan. So, and lastly, the lead has to be concise. So, actually, I hesitate a lot to say na a lead has to be short because dun sa context nung word na yon, parang pwede or maaaring ma-compromise yung quality nung information na ilalagay mo sa lead. I prefer to use concise. It's short, pero it does not compromise yung important facts or details. Parang telling or being able to put into words the information, the facts in a way na although it's short, naging compact siya. Hindi siya nagkukulang. Kahit it was only that even though only a few words were used to convey an idea or the information. Ayan. So sa contests, ang ginagamit ko is the summary lead. So sa summary lead, siya yung conventional na lead, siya yung traditional na lead na gamit. Although you can use novel leads naman, pero personally for me, this was what I was parang used to ginagamit. So it's the who, what, so what formula. Or kung sa Filipino naman, sino, ano, at ano naman. So yung who, what, so what, hindi naman, as you can see, hindi naman kailangan na sa lead mo mailagay lahat ng answers sa 5 W's and H question. Pero ito talaga yung pinaka-importante because in the who, what, so what formula, the so what serves as, siya yung mag-guide sa'yo in picking the right angle no, na i-take mo sa pagsulat ng balita. Although yung paghanap ng so what, maybe those na mga seasoned news writers na, they have already developed this news sense na parang ang bilis na lang sa kanila para hanapin ang anggulo ng balita, kung anong dapat pagtuunan ng pansin, anong dapat ilagay sa pinakaunahan. Pero yung so what, it will help us to nagawin yon, na mahanap yung pinaka-interesting or pinaka-importanting anggulo na dapat i-take. So, ayan. So, basically, it's asking yourself as the writer, what makes this story or what makes this information interesting? Anong factor or anong specific thing or feature ng information na yon yung that makes it interesting. Another thing that you may ask yourself is, so what if this information happens? So what if? So what if this, so what if this event happens? So what if this opinion was stated um, ng isang prominent person? So it's looking at the implication ng isang event or implication ng opinion ng isang tao, and ano yung consequence noon na maaaring makaapekto sa pamumuhay ng layperson, ng normal na tao kung sino. So that's what I use, the who, what, so what formula in writing my summary lead. So here's an example of the summary lead. So the headline here is DepEd eyes reducing senior high school subjects to boost students' employability. So basahin natin yung lead. The Department of Education on Thursday said it was targeting to reduce the number of subjects in the senior high school or SHS curriculum to boost the students' chances of getting hired by employers. So the who here, very obvious naman, is the Department of Education, and the what is the act of planning to reduce the number of subjects in the curriculum sa senior high school. And the so what here is actually parang it's also the why, parang bakit, ano yung rason sa likod ng pagplano ng pagbawas ng subjects sa senior high school curriculum. So it's to boost the students' chances of getting hired by employers. Imagine mo if wala yung so what. Imagine if wala yung so what. And let's say, nilagay natin lang yung, let's say, the who, what, when, sige, parang ganun, who, what, when lang yung nandun sa istorya. The Department of Education on Thursday said it was targeting to reduce the number of subjects in the senior high school curriculum. Period. That itself. Yeah, okay, I'd say that's news, that's newsworthy. Importante siya because well, nandun na kasi yung implication na as a reader, pag nabasa ko yun, na kung babawasan yung subjects in senior high school curriculum, may isip ko na kung ano yung pwedeng implication as a senior high school student. Pero that itself parang kulang pa siya in a way na then nabanggit ko kanina, ano yung reason behind the planning to reduce the number of subjects? Ano yung implication niya? So as putting the so what, hindi na mahihirapan pa yung reader to understand yung context ng isang istorya because ibinigay mo na kung ano yung magiging implication, ano yung magiging consequence ng isang event or isang idea, ganun. So next that I would like to put emphasis more on is source attribution. So sa source attribution, we often use the word said, specifically kapag yung information galing siya sa isang individual, prominent person, or let's say the president or the principal kung sa news, sa stories niyo, or a student na in-interview nyo. Pero it's also the other forms, may other forms pa of attributing your sources. For example, yung pinaka-classic, we use according to or based on, like according to blah blah, or based on a memorandum na pinost ng isang like agency, parang ganon. So, pero more often than not, we use said. So, sa source attribution, these are quotes or statements from sources that are crucial in delivering the right message of your report. So, source attribution is very important. Nabanggit ko na siya kanina, pero I would like to really idiin because it really adds credibility to your work. Kasi, hindi naman siya yung parang pinapasa mo yung responsibility. What I mean is that, alam mo na verifiable yung fact na kinonsider mo or isinulat mo na hindi siya galing sa'yo lang. Maaaring narinig mo siya, pero hindi mo pwedeng sabihin na ang i-attribute mo is that naisulat mo siya because narinig mo lang siya as a writer. Kailangan mong banggitin kanino galing yun, kanino mo siya narinig, at also kung relevant ba yung statement or kung saan man galing yung information. So there are other ways of attributing your sources, especially using strong verbs. So the other terms for said na we can use are ayan, admit, agree, explain, express, assail, castigate, lambast, slam, and yan, other strong verbs na we can use in source attribution. Pero we have to be very careful in using this. Although said is the most pinaka-safest and generic way of attributing your sources. Using this other, like parang other, hindi naman siya exactly synonyms ng said, pero other ways of attributing your sources, kailangan akma siya or tama siya sa konteksto doon sa specific information or specific paragraph na sinusulat mo. Pwede sa paggamit mo ng like said, pwede mo siyang palitan na lang ng agree because akma siya doon sa konteksto ng paragraph. So pwede naman, like you can take a screenshot of this if you want to magkaroon kayo ng references about this parang other ways of attributing your sources. Ayan. So, dako naman tayo sa steps sa pagsulat ng balita. So, number 1 is list or highlight all your facts. So, yung list, I'd say mas preferable siya dun sa, mas akma pa rin siya, mas akma siya dun sa mga nasa specific like live events. You have to list the important facts. Yung highlight naman, I put highlight there because sa contest as news writers, we are given a fact sheet. So maybe underline or kung may highlighter kayo, mas maganda yun to highlight all the important facts of your stories para mas madali mo silang mabalikan sa pagsulat mo ng balita. And then the next step is to organize them in the descending order of importance. So sa pinaka-importante hanggang sa mas least important na detalye. Ayan. So, ayan, considering the hierarchy of facts. So, ayan na nga, as a news writer, kailangan mo balansehin at intindihin kung ano yung importanteng impormasyon. Asking, so what would help, which will lead you to writing the lead and considering the best angle. So, next step is to write the lead and consider the most important or interesting fact. And ayun na nga, once again, by asking the so what, by asking kung ano yung what makes the information interesting. What is the implication, ano yung consequence ng isang event or isang information. And then next is to write the other paragraphs that answer questions that are not yet addressed, considering also the organization or the hierarchy of the facts. So we write them taking into our minds, putting into our minds the inverted pyramid style, where we start from the most important to the least important, or the least interesting to the most, from the most interesting to the least interesting fact or information. So yeah, and to answer the questions that are not yet addressed, because in writing your body, the paragraphs actually shall answer the unanswered questions, which are the other 5 W's or the H doon sa istorya mo. So the other information. So before ako dumakot sa other tips that I may share, I would share this first, yung sinulat ko. This is an example of an article that na contest piece ko siya. Actually na-revise na siya kasi ito yung na-critique na version na DSPC article ko. So I prefer to use sa contest, I prefer to use a kicker. So the kicker here is to promote accessibility and inclusivity in education. And my headline is Bill Banning No Permit, No Exam Policy in Private Schools Hurdles House. So as you can see, I used the verb hurdles, tapos ang inuna ko is yung bill instead of inuna ko yung house as yung sa in terms of like the angle of the headline, yun ako yung bill kasi siya yung mas bago. Kasi yung house, alam naman na natin na trabaho ng house na maghain at mag-craft ng mga legislation. So here's my lead. Aiming to provide accessible and inclusive learning environment to learners, the House of Representatives approved on final reading a bill that seeks to prohibit no permit, no exam policy in private basic educational institutions. So as you can see, nandito yung what so what. Pero hindi naman kailangan na yun yung pasunod-sunod. Yung pasunod-sunod. It starts with who, follows by what, and followed that and what is followed by so what. So pwedeng iba-iba yung arrangement niya, depende. So the so what here is yung first phrase, which is aiming to provide accessible and inclusive learning environment to learners. Because yun yung rason kung bakit nila gustong i-prohibit or to stop the no permit, no exam policies in private basic educational institutions or in private schools. So next naman is with 259 affirmative votes, lawmakers passed on Monday House Bill or HB number 7584, which provides administrative sanctions against private elementary and secondary educational institutions that will bar learners from taking examinations due to unpaid school fees arising from emergencies, force majeure, and good cause or other justifiable reasons. So nagsimula naman yung lead support ko, yung secondary lead, with the how, which is with 259 affirmative votes. So naipasa siya on final reading dahil sa 259 affirmative votes from the lawmakers. And then the when is answered here na sa lead support, hindi naman kailangan na nandun pa siya sa lead. And then it complements the lead because binibigyan niya na yung informasyon na nandito yung mga rason lang sa mga maaaring maging rason para mapayagan na hindi mo na magbayad ang mga students ng unpaid school fees nila, which are if the reasons are because of like emergencies, force majeure, or malaking mga pangyayari like typhoons and other causes na tragedies and good cause or other justifiable reasons. And I also use subheads sa pagsulat ko ng balita, especially sa mga contest. Pero case-to-case basis siya. It has, dapat siguro kung akma lang siya na gumamit ng subheads, especially if like mahaba yung balita mo, and it would be better to organize them. So, to organize them in a way na makakapag-isip ka ng subheads like this. So, may subhead here is democratize access. According to House Speaker Ferdinand Martin G. Romualdez, the legislation aims to democratize access to private basic education and give learners the chance to take examinations if they have valid reasons for not paying their tuition and other fees. We acknowledge that there are unforeseen emergencies and events that could prevent the family from paying their obligations, but this should not jeopardize the learning and welfare of students, Romualdez said. The Speaker, however, noted that although they hope to help students overcome this difficulty, they also intend to provide safeguards for private schools. Safeguards set. So you can see yung flow ng information or yung how I streamlined yung sentence, yung paragraphs ko by stating that here sa paragraph that I just read, and then having this subhead, safeguards set. And then nasunod naman dyan na information is about the safeguards na sinet ng House para hindi naman lugi yung private educational institutions kahit na inaalaw na hindi mo na magbayad ang mga students ng unpaid school fees nila. So, ayan, you may take a screenshot naman lang din of these para may reference kayo. And yan. And then this is how I ended it. And likewise, parents, guardians, or learners found guilty of committing an act of fraud, falsehood, or misrepresentation in availing themselves of the benefits would also be subject to appropriate disciplinary sanctions of the educational institution. And then I ended with 30, writing 30 or a hashtag to signify na my article is already done, natapos na siya. So, yan, that's an example of na ginawa ko. Balik tayo dito and mabilis lang to. I'm gonna give you some tips. So, number one is be clear and concise. So, huwag natin i-cram yung facts in a single paragraph. I-distribute natin sila evenly and organize them from the fashion in a from the most important to the least important, and consider and always take into account that vague or vague or malabo na information is bad. So write it in a way that it is easily understandable ng readers. So next is streamline your ideas, words, and your sentence structure. Dun sa pinakita ko kanina, try to allow it or write it in a way that it flows smoothly. Ganon. Use strong verbs and active voice. So yung sa strong verbs na ibigay ko siya kanina, you may use that instead of using the word said para hindi naman boring or redundant yung paggamit mo ng word na said. And also active voice. Pero hindi naman siya limited lang sa paggamit ng active voice. May mga instances na passive voice is akma or pwedeng gamitin. Pero more often than not, active voice talaga yung parang mas magandang gamitin sa pagsulat ng paragraphs and also the headline. Next is attribute your sources. I have already emphasized it kanina. So hindi ko na siya ulitin pa. And next is be highly critical. So i-verify mo yung facts, especially sa mga contestants. Balikan mo yung fact sheet. Pag may oras ka pa para mag-review, huwag mo sayangin yun. Basahin mo yung fact sheet, tapos cross-check mo kung tama ba yung nailagay mo. Ayan. So, next is read, and read. This pertains to preparation before a contest. So, hindi naman kailangan na ang babasahin mo lang is news stories lang. That would be very helpful sa pag-store mo ng information na maaari mo magagamit sa pagsulat. Pero you may also read fiction or non-fiction. That will help you in structuring or constructing your sentences para hindi boring yung pagsulat mo, varied yung sentence structures. So, ayan, avoid being redundant. If may other words na pwede mong magamit that is akma doon sa context, always consider na akma doon sa context ng paragraph. Palitan mo na lang siya para hindi siya magtunog monotonous. Tapos be accurate on the details. Doon din sa pagiging critical with sa fact sheet. Double check yung names, figures, dates, and facts because it's bad. Red flag siya na may ma-misrepresent kang data. Next is in reviewing, you check the grammar of your word. Baka may nakaligtaan ka, especially the subject and verb agreement. Yun, very important siya. And lastly, avoid editorializing. Siguro, as news writers, yung opinion natin, we may reserve that for the editorial or opinion section. But as news writers, even though hindi natin ma-share yung opinion natin sa isang istorya, it is our job or it is an objective of ours as news writers to mapukaw ang atensyon, mapukaw ang kaisipan ng madla, and with that, guiding them to formulate informed opinions. So even though we were not able to state what our opinion is, kayo yung mag-guide para magkaroon sila ng informed opinion. Ayan. So that ends my presentation. Thank you so much. So pwede na siguro tayong mag-answer ng questions, Q&A part.
Hi. Hello po. Thank you for that wonderful discussion. I'm sure marami pong natutunan ang mga nakikinig po sa atin ngayon. So, ang first question po natin ay galing muna sa FB Live. Guys, magbubukas yung chat natin in a bit para ma-accommodate yung questions niyo dito sa ating Zoom meeting. Pero dito muna tayo sa FB. Live. Ang unang tanong po ay ito, galing kay Kim Luz. Good afternoon po. I have a question regarding the use of verb tenses when it comes to news writing. Should the tense be used entirely, or are we advised to use present tense in the lead or past tense in the body of the article? So like nagbabago po ba siya dapat depending sa part ng news article niyo po?
Ayan, so sa pagsulat ng balita, I believe dapat consistent tayo sa tense na ginagamit. Pero dapat akma lang din siya sa context. So pwede siya maging future tense kung ang isang yung binabalita natin is mangyayari pa lamang. Pero in terms of like an event that has already happened, or yung information ay nasabi na siya, it's advisable na we use past tense and be consistent with it. Ayan.
Ayun. Thank you po. Ang next question naman natin ay galing sa Zoom. Kay KL Marie. Personally po, I am struggling sa paghanap ng best angle sa pagsulat po ng balita. Do you have any tips towards how to stand out sa paggawa ng angle niyo po?
Okay. Sa paghanap ng anggulo, alam nyo, medyo mahirap siya like put into words or like i-explain. Kasi as a news writer, parang de-develop nga kasi yung news sense as you practice in writing a news story. Pero as I have emphasized kanina, you may ask yourself, so what? Considering asking yourself, so what? Sa pagsulat or pag-consider ng anggulong iti-take mo. So the so what is sometimes sometimes it can be the why. It can be the why nung isang balita. Sometimes also the so what can be the time element, yung na-share ko kanina about kay VP Sara, yung okay, let's say na nangyari yung budget hearing, but it was only held for 10 minutes lang. So pwede siya maging so what because it's something that is interesting sa readers. Parang it's odd. It's a deviation nga from a norm na more often than not matagal ng pag-deliberate ng budget. Pero sa case ni VP Sara, nangyari lang siya sa loob ng 10 minutes. So actually very depende talaga siya sa specific na topic na ibibigay sa inyo. But I cannot emphasize it enough. Pero asking yourself, so what? What makes this story interesting? So what if this thing happens? So what if this information or so what if this opinion ay nasabi ng isang prominent people? Ano yung consequence nito? Ano yung implication niya? Ayan.
Ayun. Thank you po. Ang next questions naman natin nakikita ngayon ay tungkol sa headline. So pagsasama-samahin ko na po sila. So ang tanong po is, okay po bang gumamit ng novelty lead, hammer, at saka novelty lead at saka hammer po for your headlines kapag nagsusulat ng news?
Okay. Yes. Actually, nung nagpa-practice ako for the SPC, RSPC, and NSPC, and yung mentor namin, talagang sinasabi niya, i-encourage na kami na gumamit ng specifically yung hammerhead. Kasi that's something that makes your article stand out. Pero I find it hard personally to write hammerheads. That's why I resort to using kickers, or you may also use decks. Yun yung nasa baba yung main headline mo. Depende. So, it's a stylistic choice na. Pero hindi naman na kasi very strict ngayon. And also, yung paggamit nga ng subheads, dati confined lang siya sa feature, I believe. Nung elementary ako, ganun kasi yung head. Pero ngayon, in a competition na news writing now, ginagamit na din yung subheads. And also, yung novelty leads. Personally, I do not use novelty leads a lot because sa pagsulat ng novelty lead, kailangan kasi i-consider kung akma yung paggamit ng novelty lead. Kung tama ba siya sa konteksto. For example, siguro magandang example here would say, also, pero headline kasi yun yung Chelsea manalo, natalo. Yung sumikat na meme sa Facebook, di ba? It's a wordplay, di ba? Parang, okay, manalo siya, pero natalo. Kasi, okay, since ina, manalo yung name niya, pero natalo siya in that competition. So, ayan, if it's akma sa konteksto, you may use novelty, you may use other forms of writing headline na hindi yung format na SVO. Ayan po. So, yan, explore, be creative. Pwedeng maging creative in news writing with that. Pero kailangan talaga, I would have to emphasize this, na kailangan, even though we can be creative in writing our news stories or our headline, hindi niya dapat nako-compromise yung quality ng information na kailangan natin i-share or ilahat para sa public. Yan.
Ayun, salamat po. Tapos ito naman ang next question natin ay galing kay Eunice Espinili. Hi po, I'm a copywriter and once in a competition, I edited a news article na nag-end sa attribution. I want to try news writing next year. So is it okay that it ends that way po? Kasi it feels a bit off.
Yes, ayan din. Actually, nung nagpa-practice kami, ang laging advice sa akin is to end an article with a backgrounder, Parang maganda siyang way of parang concluding your article, even though hindi naman siya yung parang traditional, hindi naman siya yung like the formal way of writing wherein we have introduction, body, conclusion. Pero ending with the backgrounder is parang ano siya, formal way of ending your article. Parang it's hindi siya left hanging, parang ganun. However, if ang tinutukoy mo na pag like ending an article with an attribution, I think I read articles online. Sometimes yung end ng article nila is a quote na. So siguro ganun yung mini-mean mo, right? Yung quote na or like attributing to a source. So pwede naman siya. Actually sa RSPC piece ko, yung nag-end ako sa quote kasi to be honest, naubusan na ako nung time noon. Although yung quote ko parang okay naman na siya, hindi naman nabitin. So ayun, naubusan ako sa time and also wala akong maipoprovide na backgrounder for that specific topic. So with that, I ended it with a quote, pero I made sure na hindi siya magtutunog na kapag binasa ng reader, parang may kulang pa. Parang it's already enough. So ending it with that, it's okay. Hindi naman strictly na dapat ganito lang yung last na paragraph ng balita. Yan po.
Ayun, thank you po. Also related a bit sa answer niyo to that question.
Okay.
Is it okay po if we start off our news article with a lead that's a quotation? Yun ang tanong.
Lead, that is a quotation lead. Yeah, that's actually part siya ng parang types of novelty lead. Pero it's okay. It's okay to use quotation leads. However, kailangan mo talaga consider, is it worthy enough na maging lead ng article mo? Is it worthy enough na ilagay sa pinaka-first part? Kung yung quotation, it's something na parang, ano bang tamang word dito? Like, zeitgeist shifting, earth shaking, parang ganon. Yung type ng quote, it's something that is provocative, kumbaga. Pwede kayo gumamit ng quotation. So, ayan. Yes.
Okay, ayan. Ang next question naman po natin ay galing sa mga school paper advisors. Ang tanong po nila ay, in your opinion, what is a good way to start training your students to news write? Of course, there's practicing, but what should they have in mind po that they should consistently practice?
Okay. reading talaga, ang pagbabasa po. Kasi hindi naman kailangan sa pag-practice sulat lang ng sulat lang ng sulat ng sulat. Kasi kung walang pinabasa, kumbaga walang naipapasok sa utak ng writer, wala naman silang mailalabas, walang maisusulat na maayos. Kumbaga. Nung nagpe-prepare ako, our mentor, nung malapit na yung mismong RSPC day, pinastop niya na kami sa pagsulat. Tama na daw. What you have to do now is just to read. Kumbaga mag-ano ka na, mag-store ka na sa mental arsenal mo. Ganon. So, hindi siya confined lang po sa reading news articles dahil news writer ka. Well, that is important. That would help you in finding your style, distinct style mo in writing. Kasi may touchstone ka sa pagsulat ng balita. Pero you may also encourage journalists to read fiction or non-fiction and other types of journalistic writing like editorial and feature. Kasi ang matututunan nila doon is well, number one, grammar sa tamang pagsulat, sa pag-construct ng sentences, sa pag-vary ng construction ng sentences, at yung this sense of maayos na pagsulat in a way that your writing hindi siya yung monotonous at parang pag binasa mo robotic, parang it flows like a river or it flows smoothly pag ganun yung pagsulat. So ayan. So magbasa.
Ayun. Thank you po. Sunod naman po natin na question ay medyo compound siya. So, one, paano niyo po nadadigest ng maayos yung nasa fact sheet ng mabilis para makapagsulat po kayo? And two, paano niyo po yung dinadigest kapag yung fact sheet niyo po ay video na isang beses lang piniplay?
Okay. In terms of sa contest, hindi ko pa na-try na video yung pinapanood, tapos isang beses mo lang siya mapapanood. Although, way back nung collaborative pa ako, nangyari siya. And also, nabanggit ko kanina na news writer din ako under collab. Pero dun kasi, pwede namin i-play and bumalik kasi we have 4 hours naman. Well then, we have 4 hours sa pagsulat at pag-layout. Pero hindi ko pa na-try yung isang video tapos like hindi mo siya mababalikan. Pero I'd say a tip would be well in paying attention, hanapin mo na yung something that is considering yung nabanggit na guidelines kay mention. What is in this video? What is in this information? What is in this content that is breaking the norm? That is a deviation from something na nangyayari all the time. Ano yung aspeto here na weird or pwedeng medyo off for you or provocative? Marami kasing ways kasi iba-iba ang topics, iba-iba ang maaaring sagutin ng bawat so what sa pagtanong mo sa sarili mo ng so what in writing. So yan, depende kasi talaga siya sa topic. So pay attention and always ask kung ano yung interesting here.
Ayun. Thank you po. And since na-mention nyo rin po sa answer nyo kanina, may isa pong tanong dito. Ano po yung pinagkaibang napansin nyo sa pagsulat ng news sa collab at pagsulat ng news po sa individual?
Siguro ang pinagkaiba sa news sa collab at sa news sa individual. Well, number one, yung time limit. Mas may time ka sa collab na kasi you have 4 hours. Well, kasali na yung layout pero yeah, mas may time ka sa collab. And sa news writing you only have an hour. Tapos also in collab, syempre i-print yun. However, sa um, sa individual news writing, kailangan mo i-consider yung penmanship mo. So, yan. Pangit actually yung sulat ko, pero I try as much as possible na pagandahin siya. Kasi pwede siyang maging factor sa, sa judge na if it's something na, sige, sabihin natin na ang ganda ng content ng naisulat mo. Tama, or nakuha mo yung pinaka best na lead, or like pinaka best na angle, pero hindi niya nababasa yung sinulat mo. So it's a barrier sa part ng judge. Pwedeng i-set aside niya yung article mo kahit may potential ka sanang manalo. So ayan, penmanship din. And also, sa pagsulat kasi ng collab, since before, dati, at least two or three news articles yung kailangan sa front page. Tapos sa pagsulat naman ng balita sa individual, isa lang yung output na hinihingi. So sa collab, maaari kang maghanap ng iba't ibang anggulo ng balita or based doon sa content or information na ibinigay sa inyo. Tapos doon, it would be up to you na to weigh kung ano yung magiging main news ninyo, and yung second news, tapos yung pwedeng naging news bits, parang ganyan. However, sa pagsulat in individual, kailangan mo nang hanapin yung yung pinaka-main na anggulong pipiliin. Although I would like to say this, na wala namang mali na anggulo. Lahat ng anggulo, they're valid. Pero in terms of, this is a contest kasi, especially sa press conferences. So, dyan, since it's news writing and all forms of journalistic writing is an art form, subjective ang pag-judge dyan ng speakers, and also subjective din ang pag-intindi ng readers dito. So, sa paghahanap ng sa paghahanap ng best na angle, ayun, ihanapin mo yung best angle sa individual news writing. Tapos dun sa collab, madami kang explore na angles in writing. And
Ayun. Thank you po. And second to the last question na po natin to. So, ang tanong po dito ng isang tao ay, paano po kayo nagsiset ng translations kapag ang statement po ay galing sa ibang lengguwahe o dialekto?
okay, interesting that someone brought that up. Kasi I'd say, I feel like, and I think, hindi ko siya na-confirm ha, pero I think ito yung naging edge ko nung nag-RSPC, papunta sa NSPC nung nag-RSPC kami. Because yung fact sheet, I'm a news writing in English na writer. So ang category ko is English. Pero yung fact sheet, ang binigay sa amin, full transcription in Filipino or Tagalog. So at first, nabigla ako, was like, nakapag-practice naman ako ng ganun, pero hindi masyado kasi parang based sa experiences ng mentors ko before, and experiences ko as a writer, kapag nandito ako sa English category, ang binibigay sa amin na fact sheets is English din. Pero it's new this time, Filipino. So at first, na-shock ako, and then I had to calm myself down, and then nagsimula akong magbasa. And then, kapag gano'n naman, okay, in terms of writing, I feel like naging edge ko siya. Kasi nung nagbabasa ako ng mga balita na, for example, I believe ang nakikitaan ko ng ganitong style or format, yung CNN yata, nakikita ko na kapag yung quotation is, let's say, in Filipino, the translation follows and it's enclosed in, open and close parenthesis. Enclosed siya sa open and close parenthesis. And then translated to English or vice versa. If it's, sabihin natin, ang main na medium ng paper nyo ay Filipino, if yung statement ay in English, translate mo siya into Filipino, you put the translation in open and close parenthesis. Tapos i-treat mo siya as a sentence. So after that open and close parenthesis, you put a period after that. So yun, feel ko siya, ganun naging edge ko, I believe. Not sure, pero ganun yung ginawa ko nung RSPC. Yes, sa pag-translate.
Ayun. Thank you po. And for our last question, if you were a press con judge, what would be the metrics that you look at in choosing the best article?
First, number one, ang pinaka very, very importante kasi masyado talaga sa news writing, yung paghanap ng anggulo. So, yan, nahanapin ko yung kung sinong writer ang nakakuha ng pinaka-best na angle. So, that's number one. Number two is after that, also ginagamit ko din siya sa pag nagkikritik ako ng works ng other writers. Next is sa presentation ng facts. Titingnan ko kung paano nila inorganize yung facts from the most important to the least important. So, yan. Tapos next is, lastly, yung flow. Yung kapag binabasa mo siya, it sounds like parang nakikinig ka sa radyo. Yung parang, it does not sound monotonous. Yung parang sa mind mo, when you're reading it, maganda yung pagkaka-present ng information in a way that their sentences are varied, they're concise, hindi masyadong mahaba. Tapos yung parang habang binabasa mo siya, naghahabol ka na ng hininga. Tapos yung kapag binabasa mo siya, hindi yung parang run-on yung sentences na maraming yung kapag binasa mo siya sa sobrang haba niya, papabalik ka doon, like uulitin mong basahin yung isang paragraph kasi medyo nawala na yung flow ng thought. So, ganun, yun mga kinoconsider ko sa judge ng mga articles.
Ayun, and that's all po. Thank you.
Thank you so
Guys, once again, let's thank our speaker for sharing his wonderful experience and knowledge in news writing. So once again, a round of applause to Sir Jerome Paul Halibig. Thank you po.
Thank you po. Before I end this presentation po, I would like to say thank you sa Explain PH and sa ating mga for these people that are tuning in, because it's actually it's still surreal for me na to speak on behalf of Explain PH, because back when I was in the Isaro, tapos kasi pandemic no, nagsa-start kami na anong tawag nito? From traditional media, mag-transition to the online platform. Yung Explain page, naging touchstone namin siya sa paggawa ng layouts, sa how we present the news, parang ganun, sa online platform. So, yan, it feels surreal. So, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you po.
Thank you po.
And guys, ang next session naman natin will be about radio broadcasting and scriptwriting. So we'll be back after this break in a few minutes. See you!
Explain PH mula sa Daet Camarines Norte.
I am Shekinah Jadidaya Alima, a news writer for Explain PH, and I live in Quezon City.
Muanaldo, sa pagselebrar ta ka National Campus Press Freedom Day, di ta paglingawan ang tunay sa good pinaka-essence o true soul kading selebrasyon na di, na nagsisilbing rason hinata tapadagos tading pinagsiselebrar taon-taon.
Uminan boses san kabatan-unan, mga madunong na isip, na waran udong kagpadayon na ginapasari ganinda sa diri para sa pag-aram kag pagpabalangibog san kamatuodan.
Ang tingog sa kabatan-unan nga walay paglubad alang sa atong nasod ang Pilipinas. Diri sa Pilipinas, ang Campus Press kanunay nga usa ka tinubdan sa paglaom ug pahinungod nga radikal nga maghunahuna ug mulito.
Usa nga paagi kundi mapapauswag hangtod daraon nga mga journalist ang ira abilidad nga magkamay-adahin kusog nga tumindog, magpakiana, nga magbungkag hinbisan ano nga naglalakip ing gawaray hustisya.
Ket iti panawen at ipagkaamuan ti sabali, ket di umiso nga impormasyon, ket agsaksak na pakasla sakit. Dagiti ahamin ti Campus Press, ket napatag. Ti kapangyarihan dagiti ang tutubo, ket madi maliklikan, madi mailibak. Kabain tinadumduma, a plataporma, kabailan dagiti
For our speaker for today, Hans Benedict Peña is the DGCAS head of Explain PH, where he spends his time in creating engaging and accurate video presentation or productions. He has won the National Schools Press Conference NSPC in radio broadcasting and scriptwriting, and astonishing 3 times, demonstrating his talent and experience in production. Alongside this, he has been awarded as the most outstanding campus journalist of Region 3 in 2024. Currently, he is pursuing Bachelor of Science in Forestry at the University of the Philippines, Los Baños, combining their passion for environmental sustainability with their communication expertise. Everyone, tawag mo. Okay. Magtawa pala mo. Everyone, Hans Benedict Peña.
Ayan, hello. Naririnig ba yung microphone ko? Okay. Wait, let me just present my screen. Ayan. So, can anyone see my screen? Pwede pa confirm sa mga host natin for today? Ayan.
Yes po.
Okay. Thank you. So, good afternoon, everyone. Again, I'm Hans Benedict Peña, your speaker for this afternoon sa radio broadcasting. And ang title na presentation ay Radio Broadcasting 101. Sa mga nakapag-avail ng Joint Camp last year, ako rin yung speaker nun. Pero this time, let's try a different approach dito sa Joint Camp 2024 na Explain PH. Okay, let's try to approach this as a training mismo for you sa mga upcoming DSPC nyo, school-based press con, and other contests na sasalihan nyo in terms of radio broadcasting. Okay, so first, let's define muna ano ba yung radio broadcasting. Ayan, radio broadcasting, transmission siya ng audio content through radio waves. It provides real-time communication and entertainment. Focus tayo dun sa word na real-time. Yan. When we say real-time, madalas na pumapasok sa isip natin ay yung pagiging mabilis, kung ano yung balita na kakarating pa lang, ibabalita na the next day or the next hour na pagdating nito. So that is real-time. And real-time communication and entertainment. Radio broadcasting, when in production, is composed of 3 major components: scriptwriting, talents, and production. As you can see, naka-capitalize sila kasi for this afternoon, dito tayo magpo-focus sa scriptwriting, talents, and production. I know radio broadcasting and scriptwriting ay isang malaking part ng contest ng campus journalism kasi isa siya sa mga pinakamahirap i-execute. Kasi you have to have skills in terms of scriptwriting, yung pag-broadcast natin, and of course, yung pagpo-produce natin ng radio performance in live audiences. Dito sa radio broadcasting kasi, hindi tayo pwede umulit. In campus scene, in campus journalism scene, hindi tayo pwede umulit as well sa field, especially sa field. Yan, kaya dito tayo magfo-focus. Scriptwriting, sa talents, and production. Okay, just a little background. I've been a radio broadcaster mula grade 6 pa lang ako, and right now, I'm a second year college. So, we can say na I have a lot of experience na in terms of radio broadcasting and scriptwriting. And of course, I'm willing to share those things, yung experiences na yun sa inyo. Para, syempre, mapabetter natin yung performance natin sa contest and of course sa field if iti-take nyo yung radio broadcasting or yung pagiging radio journalist sa field. Okay? Let's proceed. Ayan. As you can see, makikita nyo na hinati ko yung presentation ko sa 3 parts. Scriptwriting, talents, and of course yung production. Ngayon, i-contextualize natin siya in terms of campus journalism scene. Kasi there's a big difference, there's a huge difference in terms of sa field and of course sa campus journalism scene. Ayan. Let's start muna with script writing. Okay, yan. Dito, first part ng script writing, gusto mag-focus tayo sa pag-weigh ng balita or weighing of news. I'm glad na news writing yung sinundan ko kasi almost na i-discuss ko sa script writing is nasabi na niya, pero there's still a difference in terms of print script and radio script. Ngayon, weighing of news. During the contest, each team will be given 4 to 5 fact sheets containing different kinds of news. Ayan. Sobrang familiar nito kasi isa ito sa pinaka-nakakabang part ng contest scene. Kasi dito kayo mamimili ng balita na ibabalita nyo, nagagawa nyo ng balita, and of course, ipo-perform nyo sa harap ng mga judge. Pero, one must know which news should come first, especially kapag 4 lang yung binigay sa inyo na balita. Yan. Dito papasok yung timbangan ng balita. Gaano ba kabigat yung balita na ilalagay natin sa una at saka dun sa huli. So, usually, in-order natin yung mga balita na ito. Nauna yung national, sunod yung international, next is local, next is yung entertainment or yung sports or showbiz if ano man yung ibigay. Now, what composes a national news? Part dyan yung election, politics, market adjustments. When we say market adjustments, pwede dito yung oil price hike, presyo ng bilihin, and other na nakaka-apekto sa public in a national scene. Now, when it comes to international scene, international news, we have bilateral meetings, international relations. Dito nyo pwedeng ipasok yung mga OFW, mga pagbisita ng president natin sa ibang leaders na ibang bansa, and of course, yung international relations natin, especially ASEAN, mga balita na gano'n. Next, local news. Ito yung mga police news, local accidents, and other provincial news na makikita natin sa mga bayan na mas maliit, kumbaga mas maliit yung scope niya sa national news. Now, when it comes to entertainment, usually ang binibigay ay sports. However, there are circumstances na ang binibigay ay entertainment, ay showbiz. Pero sa sports, we have basketball, volleyball, and any other sports. It doesn't necessarily mean na pag sports na ibabalita ay yung mga ma-actionong sports. For example, basketball, volleyball, may possibility na ibigay ay chess, golf, or yung mga sports na kakausbong pa lang sa sports scene. Yan. So sa pag-weigh ng balita, dapat alam natin kung ano yung mauuna kasi when it comes to radio broadcasting, we will handle 4 to 5 news. And maraming nakasalalay sa mauunang balita and marami ring nakasalalay sa kung ano yung mahuhuling balita. Kasi usually, sa face value, mukha silang magkakatimbang lang. Pero if you read the fact sheet, makikita mo kung ano yung mas mabigat, kung ano yung mas mahalagang mapakinggan ng tao. Now, paano ba natin ginagawa yun? Paano ba tayo nagtitimbang ng balita? Actually, marami tayong paraan para magtimbang ng balita. Pero, as the main script writer ng team ko before, and of course, isa sa mga gumagawa talaga ng news ng mga anchors, ayan, sa team namin before, ito yung paraan ko kung paano ko ba wini-weigh yung balita na binibigay sa akin. Okay? Ayan. Pero before I share it to you guys, let's try muna, for the sake of practice, let's try to weigh these types of news. PBA Governors Cup results, PBBM visits Chinese President Xi Jinping, OFW stranded in the middle of Israel-Gaza conflict, and another oil price hike expected this weekend. So for the people watching here in Zoom and the people watching in Facebook Live, you can try na i-weigh yung balita, yung mga balitang ito para sa practice natin. So I'll give you 5 seconds before I'll show you the results. Okay? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay? Yan. So, kung ako yung mag-weigh ng balita, ganito ko siya titimbangin. Okay? Check your answers, guys, if tama. And if tama, very good. Ngayon, explain natin bakit ganito yung pagkakasunod-sunod ng balita na binigay ko. Okay? Una, OFW stranded in the middle of Israel-Gaza conflict. As you can see, international news siya. Pero bakit ko siya inuna? Samantalang meron tayong national news na oil price hike. Inuna ko siya kasi may kabilang na OFW sa balita. May kabilang na Pilipino sa balita. So for me, mas mahalaga yung marinig ng tao. Mas may connection yun sa tao. Okay? Mas matimbang yung pagdating ng OFW, yung pagbalik ng OFWs mula sa Israel-Gaza conflict kaysa sa oil price hike na paparating this weekend. So, inuna ko yung OFW. Okay? Next, another oil price hike expected this weekend. Yan. As you can see, this is very much obvious kasi maraming motorista sa Pilipinas and yung oil price hike news ay makakatulong sa kanila upang makapag-prepare for the next day before the oil price hike even started. So, pinangalawa ko siya as a news. Next is PBBM visits Chinese President Xi Jinping. Okay, ito pangatlo na to. Pero bakit siya pangatlo? International news siya. Prominent yung person na included sa news. So, as you can see, very much deductive naman itong arrangement na ito. Itong pagbisita ni PBBM kay Chinese President Xi Jinping is nilagay sa pangatlo kasi for me, mas mahalagang marinig ng tao yung mga paparating na OFW, yung oil price hike, kaysa sa international relation or bilateral meetings na kagaya nito. So, pero in any other circumstance, usually, nasa pangalawa itong PBBM visit na ito. Pero kapag ganito yung mga balita na naka-line up sa inyo ay dapat aware tayo sa decision making natin kasi probably mas mabigat yung ibang balita